I like
What's
his takes
going
as
on,
well.
bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, joined by AC, Dylan, and Kev. We are here to recap the Vikings and the Bears Monday Night Football, week number 5 here in the NFL. Make sure you're in the live comment section. Let us know what you thought of the Bears, the Vikings, the whole quarterback situation on both teams. The Vikings, Case Keenum, should he be the starter, or is Sam Bradford just banged up? What'd you think of Mitch Trubiskys' first performance on Monday Night Football? And whatever else you want to talk about. The Vikings squeak it out 20-17 with a late field goal in the game. And we're just going to talk about the performances, the players, the teams, and the game. So, guys, first off, what did you think of the game? Were you entertained? Was it a kind of what you expected? Or was it shocking that the Bears kind of stuck around in this game?
This was an interesting game to watch here. We saw the Vikings team that's had a really great defense throughout the year go and have their offensive struggles, mainly due to Sam Bradford, go against the Chicago Bears team that had some upside only because of the debut of Trubisky on Monday Night Football. That got some Bears fans a little bit excited for this game. And overall, I saw some interesting things here. Sam Bradford, not healthy. The guy is not healthy. We clearly saw that. Got taken out in the last drive of the second quarter. So Case Keenum came in there, did really, really well. I mean, he put out some really good stats. I liked what I saw from the game of Case Keenum. They got the run game, which is shocking. McKinnon had 95 yards. Latavius Murray, only 31 yards. I thought Murray was going to be the number one running back after Dalvin Cook. McKinnon put well in. Receiver-wise, not big threats, but they did have a decent game overall. And the defense was solid for the Vikings. Bears, I was looking to see what Mitch Trubisky was going to put out there. I know we're going to talk a lot about it. But I saw some good and bad in here. Rushing game, again, they're trying with the rushing game. I like that. And they have not a lot of receivers. So it was going to come down to me in this game of whether Trubisky was going to do good or bad. And he played all right. He had some good plays here. So I still expected the Vikings to win even with it. And I think if they had played Case Keenum, this might have been even more high-scoring game for the Vikings. But overall, interesting game for both. Going forward, they're going to have two different roads.
For me, this was a very poor first half for both teams. I don't think I agree with Dylan. I was surprised that Bradford played. He clearly wasn't ready. I thought the Bears put a lot of pressure on him. I thought the Vikings offensive line struggled at the beginning. They got the big play when they needed it. And I think it's kind of sad because I think the Vikings running game was okay, but I think they really did miss Dalvin Cook. And I think that's not going to be the story that a lot of people are going to talk about tonight because this was Trubisky's debut and we're going to spend a lot of time talking about that. So I'm going to bring up Dalvin Cook now because no one else is going to talk about him. He's missed. I think the Vikings offense is much weaker without him. It's very clear. I even think the receiver combination was weaker without him there. I know McKinnon had a big run, but he's not Dalvin Cook. And the Bears hung in there with what they had at the end. Not a rookie mistake led to a Vikings victory. And that's, I guess, the story of the game.
Yeah, I only watched the second half, but luckily I didn't miss that much because looking at the score, Chicago couldn't get into field goal range. And Minnesota pretty much the same. Looking at the second half, though, Keenum is the quarterback right now. Obviously, we saw Bradford. I've never been a huge fan of Bradford. We saw Bradford in that first game before he got injured look very good. Look like a top quarterback. But if you think about the Vikings, besides one drive in the second half, they went down the field and scored each time. They time of possession in that second half. And then for the Bears, this game shouldn't have been as close as it was. Give credit to the Bears, but the Bears couldn't really stop Keenum in the second half. And if a miracle 38-yard touchdown punt doesn't get scored, we're not even talking about this game being close. And you look at Trubisky's pass totally underthrown. Anyone else picks that off right through his hands and into Miller's hands. So I think this game easily could have been a lot bigger win. And then Bears, the Vikings gave the Bears chances in that second half with penalties, and then Trubisky throws an ill-advised pass in his own zone with a chance to win it. I wasn't too impressed. When I see 12 for 25, yeah, he made some decent throws, but his longest throw was 18 yards. The punter's longest throw was 38 yards. I just don't think, from what I saw, he needs to push the ball downfield more. And Glennon threw interceptions, but Glennon also had some long throws, long plays, and wasn't afraid to throw downfield. So it'll be interesting to see moving forward if we get to see some balls throw downfield a bit more.
Trubisky was not comfortable when it was empty or spread, but when he was in 3rd and 4 and 3rd and manageable, I thought he actually did okay. I thought he did all right there. They don't have, 5 wide receivers today. We've got 5 receptions for like 50 yards, I think, something pretty close to that.
That's been the story all year.
Yeah, named White, McBride, and Wheaton. So 6 receptions for the wide receivers for 72 yards. Longest wide receiver.
Okay, but that's still half his throw. That's half his completion, so it's not that off. That's half his completions. He only had 12 completions.
Yeah, but that's not like it's not.
No, I know, but like
their best receiver is Zach Miller.
When you have 12 completions,
yeah. But I don't think they're gonna. To me, I don't think you want Trubisky to be throwing the ball way downfield. Not at this point.
No.
I think you want him in 3rd and manageable situations. That was the intention of the game plan for the most part for the Bears tonight, and for the most part they did it. And it's unfortunate there was a couple of times that they were not able to do it. And you're right. I think the last pass was an ill-advised pass. I think even Mitch Trubisky would agree with that. But this wasn't awful. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, this guy needs to get off the field. It's a rookie quarterback.
No, for sure.
I wasn't expecting anything more.
But you say 3rd down. What do you think? Like they gave him some 3rd and manageable. What do you think the Bears' 3rd down conversion was in this game? Just off the top of your head. What do you think it was?
Not good, because their receivers couldn't get open.
I know, but then they're not.
It was ridiculous.
12, not good, but they haven't been good all year at that. So I'm not saying that changed it.
I do want to say this. Okay, so my thoughts on the game. The first half, AC, actually the Bears dominated the first half. I know you weren't able to watch it, but they were moving the ball with some consistency. But right around that 40-yard line, they weren't able to do anything. Like, they got in some 4th down situations where it was 4th and short and they could have went for it. John Fox got a delay of game for whatever the hell he was doing. And they were going to go for it.
3 times tonight, there was some sort of confusion on the Chicago sidelines.
Yeah, 3 times. They could have went for it twice in the first half to get down the field, but something happened to screw that up. The Bears, they were dominating. Their defense was all over Bradford. The Vikings couldn't run the ball. They didn't get a first down till the second quarter. And Trubisky was playing well. They were running the ball well. They were getting into good field position, but they just weren't able to kind of execute around that area. And you have to give Minnesota's defense for really being able to, stick in there and stop Chicago, because if that didn't happen, Chicago could have gotten out to a decent lead and possibly won this game. So I understand what you're saying with Minnesota, with the whole Chicago fake punt. Minnesota definitely came out in the second half and played a lot better game. But in the first half, I think the other 2 guys can agree with me. It looked like Chicago should have been up in this game and not losing 3-2.
Yeah, Chicago missed some opportunity. I would say Chicago missed a couple of opportunities for sure.
And their defense was solid. They got 3 sacks in the first half. So I was looking, from that standpoint.
But Dylan, do you think what made the offense, people saying like, you guys, it's better than it was, because the Bears defense was holding Minnesota to nothing? And if you think about it, per drive, I'm assuming in the first half, Trubisky led them to what, 20-yard drives?
But is it
30-yard drives? They didn't get a single point.
We're not on Trubisky's performance yet, but the Vikings defense is really good. And sometimes you expect a really good defense to dominate a mostly really bad offense all game.
And all I'm saying is, at least I wouldn't be saying this at least if there was maybe 2 field goals, 1 field goal, and because you're saying you move the ball, but I just don't see that. You know what I mean? Like I could care less if you move the ball. Get me points. Points wins games. If you move the ball, what's the difference when you get into the 40-yard line? Run because the same offense.
It shows dominance in the game. I know that they didn't score, but you would have to see the game actually to judge it. So you would have to see the first half, because when we saw this first half, it was weird. So Chicago definitely should have been up.
They got a touchdown on the 2 long plays that were called back with penalties.
Yeah.
It was a drop ball. So they could have actually been up 21-0 realistically.
There you go.
And like I'm not a guy that blames the refs ever, even if it's against my team. So that's just the way it happens. I think you can take a look at Minnesota's penalties in that second half, and that helped Chicago.
I'm not blaming the refs. I'm not blaming the refs. I'm just bringing up the point that there was 2 penalties. I'm just saying there were 2 penalties. I'm not saying that whether they were penalties or not, it's not the point of the conversation. There were 2 penalties that cost 2 long plays. So, and realistically, you could make the argument that Bears could have been up 21-0 had they got those plays, but they didn't, and that's just
that's why they lost.
Yeah.
Okay. So 20-17, the Vikings started the game off with a safety on Sam Bradford. Then the second quarter saw a field goal from Minnesota. Kai Forbath, who's been kind of inconsistent all year long, did hit all his field goals. Then there was 14 points scored by the Vikings, 1 touchdown from Kyle Rudolph, 13 yards out from Case Keenum, and a rushing touchdown from Jerick McKinnon, 58 yards. That was a really nice run. He kind of made a cutback off a couple of blocks. It seemed like Chicago was confused and they didn't really know where they were at. They were trying to audible quickly. This was like no huddle situation for Minnesota. They called a pitch to the outside, and he made a nice run. Then there was a touchdown, Mitch Trubisky to Zach Miller in the fourth quarter, tying the game up. And then there was that crazy 2-point conversion play where it was like a toss, a pitch back to Trubisky, and everybody in the entire league is going to steal that play. That was incredible. That was an awesome play. And then there was a field goal to end the game, of course, off the interception to win the game. Another 26-yarder from Forbath, who had 2 26-yarders. So very tough day on Forbath today. Let's get into the stats for each team, starting off with the winning team. Obviously, we talked about the quarterback performances. Let's start off with Sam Bradford, 5 for 11, 36 yards. He was sacked 4 times. Case Keenum was sacked 0 times. I think this is the biggest thing we can take away, because Case Keenum in this game was able to run around, make some plays, and he was able to escape some of the pressure that Chicago was sending. I think at the beginning of the game, Chicago was a lot just at more ease to send pressure at Bradford, send extra guys, because they know Bradford, first off, isn't very mobile by himself. But now that he's injured, he can't really move around. He was getting hit a lot. He was under a lot of pressure. Leonard Floyd was all over him. Hakeem Hicks was all over him, and Bradford couldn't do anything. And when Case Keenum came in, he made a couple scrambles for some big yardage. He moved outside the pocket. I think Case Keenum had a pretty good game overall. I wouldn't say it was great, but it was pretty good. 17 for 21, 140 yards and a touchdown. That looks great. He made some nice plays. It wasn't like he was just darts and dots all over the field, but he was good. And Bradford.
Your sound went down.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Bradford.
You're good.
See, I'm not doing it.
Hello?
You're good.
Hello. I
No,
you're good.
Kev, mute yourself. Okay. Nope.
No, but okay, now try it.
There we go. Okay, so
He was on mute when he did that. Okay.
Bradford, yeah, like he looked hurt. I agree with what you guys said. He just wasn't. It just wasn't his game, and I just thought like his offensive line wasn't helping him either. I thought Chicago got a lot of pressure. So, what did you guys think about the 2 quarterbacks today?
Keenum looked impressive. I want to be honest here. When I saw Bradford come out here, first off, I clearly looked like he was injured. He was out there kind of, limping on the field and not making the plays. The 4 sacks were troubling. I would say a part of that was due to their offensive line. They weren't very well in the first half with him. But also blame needs to be put on Sam Bradford, who was not healthy. He missed those couple of weeks of practice, came back and had limited practice in between the game on Sunday and today's game. So there was, some communication issues, and they weren't able to get good plays. The drives were not good. One play I do want to point out in particular that was 100% Sam Bradford's fault was the safety. He goes out there and he has 5 seconds to throw this football, and he knows that at some point there's going to be pressure on the other side, wasn't looking, and got sacked. So I know it's a offensive lineman's job to hold him for as long, but when you have 5-6 seconds in the pocket, you either A, throw it away and just punt it on 4th down, or B, make a throw. But for the rest of it, wasn't very good. Case Keenum went out there in the second half, impressed me. I'm not the biggest Case Keenum fan. I don't think anybody is. But he's been out there. He's 2-2 as a quarterback for the Vikings, and played pretty decently well here in good matchups, threw some good passes. Didn't have an explosive game to his receivers, but it wasn't all about explosion. It was about making the first downs, and he did so pretty effectively. 17-21. I don't think you can ask much better. A couple of stops here and there, but overall good performance of him. I liked what I saw out of Mitchell Trubisky.
Case Keenum, you mean?
Yeah.
My next name, Mitchell Trubisky. Shut up.
Yeah, I thought. I think one of the big turning points in this game was the first drive in the third quarter was a 6-minute and 40-second drive with Keenum. Kind of took sort of control of the game. Kind of made this a horse race. Keenum took charge there. I think that really helped. I think that turned it around and got the touchdown to Kyle Rudolph. That was really the long, sustained drive. I don't mind Keenum. Actually, I don't think he's done a really terrible job. I think he can be an effective quarterback for the Vikings going forward. And probably for the next 3 or 4 weeks until Bradford gets healthy. I didn't necessarily mind Case Keenum tonight, and I haven't minded him so far. I think he can get the job done.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't mind him. And it'd be surprising because he literally, I would have to say, was the MVP of this game if you're looking at it. Maybe with McKinnon in that second half. Just imagine if he played the whole game. Because the things I was reading about the game, and RG3 said it too, was Bradford was playing like he was injured. That's in the back of his head. And RG3 had a tweet that's kind of how RG3 played when he came back, because he was still injured. He wasn't ready. And when you're a quarterback in the NFL, you only can have one thing on your mind, and that's playing football and not worrying about getting hurt, making the throws, making the reads, and not having in the back of your head the little voice that's like you're just about to get injured again. So I think that was holding him back a bit. And I think if Keenum played this game, I think we have a much different game, that's for sure, because I think, like I said, Chicago only stopped them on one drive in the second half.
Okay, going to the runners, McKinnon, 16 carries, 95 yards, 5.9 yards per carry. That's helped out a lot by the 58-yard run for a touchdown. Also had a fumble in the game. McKinnon, he was good and bad. I thought that 58-yard run was obviously impressive. He ran hard when he got the ball, but that 58-yard run, you take that away from him, which was really confusion from the Bears. I would put that more on the Bears than on the Vikings offense for making that play, because they were so confused. They were running around and they weren't set, and good on the Vikings to catch them off guard. But besides that, I think there were a lot of stuffs, and I don't think the offensive line really helped McKinnon out very much in that regard. So he was good. He was bad. He had his moments. He's definitely not Dalvin Cook. I thought Latavius Murray, he, again, mostly bad, mostly stuffed at the line, but he did have a couple of runs where he was 5-6 yards, and he ran kind of strong. I would say McKinnon was the more effective guy because of his quickness, but I don't think either of them were spectacular or anything. that one run really is huge for his game. Case Keenum had that 22-yard run where I swear to God it looked like he was going to run the entire field. Like nobody was ahead of him, it looked like on the screen. Thielen had an 11-yard reverse. And their receivers, McKinnon also had 6 receptions for 51 yards, which was where I thought he would be most effective, was in his receiving game, which is what he's been known for in his career. He's a receiving back. He uses that quickness. And that's where he was his best, I thought, really. And he was effective in short passing plays. And he really helped out Case when he came in the game to kind of relieve some of that pressure that Bradford had on him from the Bears. That made the Bears kind of sit back a little bit more and send less blitzes because of all the short screens and pass plays that the Vikings started to run. So that was good play calling. 6 catches, 45 yards, and a touchdown for Kyle Rudolph. Kind of a quiet game, but did have that touchdown overall. Adam Thielen, definitely a quiet game for him in this one. 5 catches for 34 yards. And talk about quiet games. Stephon Diggs, 1 catch, 4 yards. He was hurt in this game, but that was mostly like Bradford wasn't able to pass the ball at all in this game. And Diggs was healthy at that point in the game. And kind of when Case came in, Diggs was just in there as a decoy, and he didn't really do a lot. So I can't really blame him for that. Michael Floyd did have 1 nice catch, but besides that, he wasn't really involved. And Latavius Murray had 2 catches for 12 yards. Any thoughts on the runners and receivers in this game for the Vikings?
Like you said, the run from McKinnon, the long run, helped out his stats. But I did like the fact that they were getting something going for them. They're going to have to get a lot considering they lost Dalvin Cook, which was, I think, their most valuable piece. I know they have one of the best, I think, the best 1-2 combo in Thielen and Diggs. But if you don't have a run game, you're gonna be lacking. That's what the Vikings have been using for the last 10 years, is a good run game with Peterson. So they need to get something going on that front, even if it is how many rushing yards? 159 yards. I mean, as a team overall, even taking out the 58-yard run, that's still over 100 yards for them. Decent performance by the rushing game. As for the receiving game, nobody really stood out. I was kind of expecting Michael Floyd to be a bigger impact because they just got him on there, and he only had 1 catch for 19 yards. But I think maybe, lack of the system, next week he might be better. But kind of disappointing performance from Diggs, especially 1 catch for 4 yards. But since they didn't lose the game, it's not as impactful. I just think it was kind of an off game for them. But as I said with Case Keenum, he got the job done. So these kind of stats are not as impactful. But hopefully next week they can get back on their game. In whatever matchup. I'm trying to figure out who they play next week. They play the Packers. They're going to definitely need them against the Packers.
I thought the MVP tonight was Pat Schumer, because not because necessarily he did great play calling, but when they made a big play, they were going to a no huddle. I thought he mixed no huddle very well, and I thought that confused the Bears a lot. It felt easy to confuse the Bears, but I thought Pat Schumer, the way he called the game was really good too. No huddle at certain times after big plays, kind of mixed it up a little bit. There was nothing spectacular about the Vikings receivers or backs particularly tonight, but I thought the play calling was effective enough to get the job done.
Yeah, I wasn't that impressed, I guess, with what I saw on the run game. I think it's a big problem. And I do think now that even what I saw with Minnesota that I liked, their run game did start to pick up more and more yards, especially in the 3rd and 4th quarter, when obviously it must have been lacking because the second half numbers compared to the first half numbers, and there still were those stuffs. But I think that was more about wearing down a not that great Chicago Bears defense, and maybe that first half that defense was playing just a bit over, because we've seen this Bears team a couple times now. They've lost some tight games. They've played decent enough. But I think what it does show me with no Dalvin Cook, that I don't think Minnesota's that team that make the playoffs. I think Detroit and Green Bay are way too good. And regardless of Minnesota winning this game, seeing what they have and what they are, I just don't think that defense is good enough to help them win games against Aaron Rodgers and Stafford.
Maybe Stafford, if they get some better better offense because they only held them to 14 points last week. So if they got some better offense, maybe they would win. But their defense, this game, 6 tackles for Linville Joseph, 6 tackles for Trey Waynes, 5 for Sendejo, Dylan's favorite player, 5 tackles for Kendricks, 4 for Barr, 3 for Harrison Smith with the interception, which basically was the game-winning play. And then you had the sack for Everson Griffin, and that was it, only 1 sack. I thought Daniel Hunter also stood out with his speed in this game, even though he didn't get a sack. But there were multiple pressures in this game. I think that if this was Mike Glennon, they probably would have had more sacks, because if there was one positive AC for Trubisky, it was that he was able to avoid some of those faster players that the Vikings were sending off the edge. And I thought he did well in that regard. But yeah, the Vikings defense played great. They didn't really have to make, they made a lot of stops in the first half. In the second half, they made that one crucial play that they really needed to make. Of course, they only gave up 10 points in this game because the 7 points came off the punt, and that was special teams. So they played a great game. They're one of the top 5 defenses in the league, and they continue to play well. Any thoughts on the defense?
Honest mistake over there. Defense was good, obviously really good. I've credited them as one of the best defenses in football, and they continue to play that way. They have great talent, like exceptionally great talent. They're giving Rhodes the money for a reason. And then you got great players like Harrison.
It seems like
Smith.
no one even throws at him anymore.
Exactly. And that's how you know you're a good cornerback, when you don't get thrown to, which is weird. It's almost counterintuitive, but it makes sense. Sendejo was really good. Smith made great plays, including the interception. In fact, Sendejo could have had an interception if they had just put it a little bit forward. But just that's what they need to do. That this defense needs to put they don't put as much pressure. They do make some good sacks here and there. But they're more known for their great secondary, and I think they played a good game tonight. Especially, you don't have much film when it comes to Trubisky. You got to see the 1 year in North Carolina. That's about it. So you're kind of going out there trying to see what mistakes he's going to make as a rookie. And I think overall for a performance, they did pretty well tonight.
I will say this. I thought that their run defense in the thing that they need to stop the most, I thought that was a little weak. They gave up a lot of yards against Detroit in that game last week with Abdullah, which is not typical of the Lions to run the ball at all. But last week they gave up yards to Abdullah. This week they gave up yards to Howard and Cohen. And I understand that they're a good running team, the Bears, but that's still not a positive sign when you're playing a team with Kendall Wright and Marcus Wheaton as your receivers, and you're still not really being you're not shutting down the run. So that might be one concern.
To be fair, Cohen only had 13 yards, and his longest run his average was 4 yards. I mean, I know you don't want those long runs, but still.
Well, Howard had 76 yards. I mean, that's pretty good.
No, I know, but you said Cohen. That's why we're just saying that he didn't have a very good game.
Sure.
I was not entirely enamored with this defense. I thought they got the big play when they needed to, but the Bears also went down on a 6-minute drive in the second half and scored on them. They got flipped. That flip play was confused in a 2-point conversion. I think it was more to me the Bears shooting themselves, especially in the first half. The Bears had 5 penalties in a row. Like in a span of a minute, the Bears had 5 offensive penalties.
That's how you know you're bad.
Yeah. So I mean, the Bears were found ways to lose. They were shooting themselves in the foot. So it wasn't a nice.
Did you see John Fox laughing when they were doing it too?
Yeah, it was funny. And Anthony Barr I thought Anthony Barr stood out. I liked him. I like him. He's a quiet linebacker. I would be concerned going forward if you're playing a veteran offense like Green Bay. I want to see what the Vikings do.
Typically, the Vikings defense does well against the Packers, so that is an interesting matchup.
Yeah, they'll be maybe more hyped up than this one, or more prepared than this one. But I would be curious about that too. So they got the job done, but I would be kind of concerned going forward.
Why?
They played a rookie quarterback with a lack of wide receivers tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And it still allowed 17. I mean, okay, 17 points isn't terrible, but 17 points. If that's Aaron Rodgers and Jordy Nelson, they don't shoot themselves in the foot, especially at the start of the first half.
Jordy Nelson's usually a non-factor in those games.
But if it's Aaron Rodgers and Jordy Nelson, and the Vikings are playing as bad as they did in that first half, the Packers will jump on that.
True. Agree.
And the Packers defense, well, that's a different story, but the Packers defense has improved against a not very good Minnesota offense with no Cook.
Has it improved?
I think so. I think they're flying around more. Matthews, you can tell when you watch that Matthews is a lot better than the Matthews we saw last year.
I would agree.
Yeah, but I think the Bears defense is better for sure.
Is better than the Packers defense?
Oh, for sure. Not even close.
For sure. I'm not going to agree with you there, Mitch. I'm sorry.
Really? The defensive line, the front seven of the Bears is light and day compared to the Packers.
I guess. Whatever you say.
At least in my opinion. But
yeah. That's all it is.
So let's go to the Bears. Mitch Trubiskys, 12 for 25, 128 yards and a touchdown and an interception, was sacked once. Overall, I thought, as Dylan put it, a B. I thought he had some plays, especially in the first half, where he made some nice throws, and a lot of them were taken back, which kind of sucks. He made a couple throws to have them tie the game. I thought he was good outside the pocket. I thought he was really accurate on the run. He did try and force some things on third down when his receivers weren't open, which he's trying to make a play. He's trying to get the first down. It just didn't happen. I thought, his wide receivers didn't really help him out a lot in those situations and getting any separation. On that interception, he tried to force a pass across his body and against a Pro Bowl safety. Not exactly the smartest play ever. But it wasn't like that was a great interception by Harrison Smith. It wasn't like it was a dumb duck throw, but he had his moments. I think he also ran pretty well. He showed some speed on a couple of plays. But, he was a rookie. He made some rookie mistakes. But overall, I thought, with a better supporting cast, this would have been a lot better showing. Just overall, if this team gets some receivers that aren't their running backs, this guy and this offense could be good. Because I also liked some of the play calls. I thought that he does really fit the offense. Like I said before, he fits the offense a lot better than Glennon does. It allows them to open the playbook up a little bit and do some extra different things. So that's a positive. But yeah, he had an average game. I thought this is about the game that he would have because he's playing a really good defense and he has nothing to really work with. And yeah, that's kind of what I took away from it. Also, you have to look at the punter with the great 38-yard pass. Dude was wide open. It was a great play design. Touchdown, 38 yards. That was a great call by John Fox. Give him credit where credit is due. And those were all the passing yards for the game for the Bears. So the Vikings did help hold them to under 200, which has been kind of a common theme for the Bears this season as they have no receivers. Go ahead, guys.
So I was looking at this game, interested to see what this performance was going to be. I knew we were going to talk about it a lot, and I gave it a B, as you guys saw on my Twitter. 12 of 25, that's kind of concerning. But again, with the talent that is on the field, you kind of have to give it as a share of everything. Their best receiver is Zach Miller, who I like as a tight end, but they don't really use all that well to his potential. Kendall Wright, a decent receiver as well. They used him. But, I mean, look at this. The most receptions was 4 receptions. So take that as you will. I like some of the throws he was making, especially in the first half. He was making a couple of good throws that I liked, including the first completion that he had was right to Kendall Wright on the sidelines. It was a good throw. And again, when you see rookie quarterbacks in their very first game, we saw it twice last year with both Dak Prescott and Carson Wentz. You want to see those kind of matchups. You want to see how they go against the defense and if they're going to make sharp and crisp throws. even if they make a mistake, I want to see how it's thrown. I want to see where he's looking at down the field. Is he making short 8-yard passes, or is he going down the field? He didn't make a lot of long throws. His average today was 5.1 per completion, which is decent enough. You want to see what they did. But a couple of mistakes. I didn't like the interception. Again, not the worst interception you'll ever see. But I think Harrison Smith read it very well, as did Sendejo when he got the hit on what's his name, Wheaton, on that one catch, or one attempted catch. So overall, I thought it was a decent game. Again, I want to see him grow. This is a first game experience, but just it's an interesting factor. And I also want to see next season when they actually get healthy, when they have receiver cores. But as a first game basis, I thought it was a decent performance.
You can clearly tell they miss Cameron Meredith. Like, there's not one receiver on their team where the guy gets open.
They miss Cameron Meredith. They miss Kevin White, which they'll continue to miss because he gets injured every game. He's never going to play. He'll never play a snap in this league. God, man, I feel bad for the guy. Like, I do any injury.
Yeah, putting it in perspective, I think you could compare what Trubiskys working with to kind of what Jared Goff was working with last year. And we've seen the improvement with Jared Goff from season 1 to season 2. And I think, at least in the first game, we see more with Trubisky than we did with Goff last year. And this is a defense that he played that allowed the Lions with Matt Stafford to only score 14 points. So not too bad.
But no, not too bad at all. But as we know in the NFL, you've said it, it's hard. Teams are so different. Not one team, and Minnesota Vikings being one of those teams, Chicago being one of those teams, no team's consistent. So it's a very tough season to be like, oh, well, you only let thing, but then you lost to this team. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's a lot. You can do that a lot right now. That's why it's tough to be like, oh, well, Tom Brady lost to the Panthers, therefore the Panthers are going to beat everyone. And then, you know what I mean? Like, it's
the Vikings tough. Lose to?
It was
they lost to the Lions last week.
14-6. What was the other one?
14-7, and then the other game that they lost to was I'm pulling it up right now.
Pittsburgh,
correct. And that was that was with Case Keenum.
That was their worst defensive game, which was 20-something points, and they ate up Jameis Winston in game 1. They did well against Matt.
Yeah, and they let 31 against. They let. Let me see there. Yeah, I guess 17, 7. Yeah, it's about 17, which is decent. 26 against the Steelers.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah.
I'm just saying that. You know what? I'm not going to say anything more about Trubisky because I've said enough. But what I will say is, though, I think a lot of this has to do with coaching. I don't get how you don't have him checking down to Cohen only with 1 catch. I don't get how you don't get these running backs going more with a young receiver. Check down, drags. What I saw in the second half was a lot of like trying to do a couple out patterns.
Yeah, outs and curls and comebacks.
Which, like where Vikings are just playing man-to-man and their DBs are good enough that they're going to be on you right away. Why not try to get some separation from the receivers? Because even a shitty receiver – Like Kendall Wright's not bad. We've seen Kendall Wright perform in this league before. But if you can get him on drags and get the ball in his hands early, let those guys do their thing. And I think that helps build a quarterback's confidence a lot more than what I saw today. So I'll get off the Trubisky thing. Hope everything works out because I know my team drafted quarterback 2nd overall, and it was kind of skeptical there for a bit, and then it worked out. So. But I do think that there needs, that coach, that offensive coordinator who called that play looks like a genius. I don't think he called that great of a game, though, if you're Chicago.
That play was awesome. But
I don't think he called a very good game because how do you not, if you look at – well, we'll talk about Tariq Cohen because I think he's only really had 2 good games.
Right? I think he's a great player.
He's a great player, but they're not getting him the ball in the right way.
Man, I think that guy would be awesome. I think he's the next Darren Sproles to me.
No, for sure. But look how the Eagles have in the past, obviously not this season, in the past, figured out ways to get him the ball no matter what.
Yeah, that's not his fault, though. That's not his fault. That's called the Bears suck.
No, but that's still coaching. That's not anything to do with personnel.
That's not Cohen's fault.
Yeah, then that's not what he's saying. But I'm saying, like, in certain systems, I think Eagles system, I would love to see him on the Chiefs. Yeah, I know they got Hunt, but I mean, you put him in a good system, that works tremendous wonders. And they even the first 2 games where he was getting off explosive,
He's leading the team in receptions still. So
that's depressing.
No, I understand that. I just don't think he'll ever be a Saul, maybe on a couple sweeps, but I do not think he'll be a very consistent running back. Which it looks like if you look at his carries, they want him to be that.
Tonight, I mean, every single run it seemed that he had, it was like the D line was already in the backfield.
Well, yeah, no,
and he was
6 for
trying to
13.
run around.
Green Bay, he was 6 for 24. Obviously, had a good game against Pittsburgh, but against Tampa Bay, he was 7 for 13.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I just wish you got to find him. Obviously, he got 2 8 reception games the first 2, and then this is probably his worst game so far.
And I think that's something where he is 5'6", and he's I think he's going to develop into a better runner. Like we personally, I've seen this, and I know you hate the Patriots comparison, but I've seen this with James White, where at the beginning of his career, he couldn't run for 2 yards. Now he can, he has his moments where he runs decently. I think with those receiving running backs, when they come in the league, it's all about getting the ball in their hands in the receiving game, and then they kind of develop over time, especially when they're that small, into becoming a better runner.
Yeah, but I think obviously that's Patriots offense too, where it's mostly spread.
Yeah. Plus, you have Jordan Howard, who's a beast. So
yeah, Howard was their best offensive player, and Zach Miller got the touchdown. One of the things, I guess, get back to Trubisky that I would be concerned about is it's pretty obvious that this is John Fox's last year, so he's going to be under a new coaching staff and a new system next year. How is that going to help him?
I would love to see the Bears go out and get an offensive coach.
Yeah, that would be great. But at the same time, it's just more for him to learn. That's the concern, right?
Look at Jared Goff's growth with Sean McVay, right?
But
John Fox is an overrated coach.
Refused to play Jared Goff under any circumstances. Fisher was like, "I'm not putting this guy on the field because he's not ready."
Fisher is the worst coach.
Look, Jeff Fisher, old school coach, known mostly for defense, on and off, had his moments. Sounds a lot like John Fox to me. That the game has passed him by. Oh, let's get an offensive coach, and then look at Jared Goff, who's had a pretty good season. I wouldn't say he's spectacular or anything. I think Trubisky's personally more talented than Jared Goff is, but he's just, if you put Trubisky in that system and you put Goff in this system, what would the difference be?
I would say that Goff did benefit from a year of NFL experience, even
for sure.
Bench,
a full off season as the starter, that obviously helps.
That helps, yeah. But I'm going to be curious to see what happens next year with Trubisky under a new coaching system. And
so, do you think John Fox is going to be fired? No doubt.
100%.
He should be.
100%.
He should be.
And
whether if it's here or Black Monday, like he should be fired as one of the first head coaches fired this season. Continue.
Like I just still think they have 3 to 4 years to go before they're even close to the playoffs.
I would agree with that.
I would give it 2 years. I think get a new coach, have a good free agency. I don't think this team is too far off. I think the offensive line is good. They have good running backs. If Cam Meredith comes back, you add another receiver to that.
But we've seen Cam, like, I don't know. We've seen
the
Cam
defense.
Meredith.
You had a couple of secondary players.
I just don't think I think Cam Meredith is very underwhelming in my opinion. He's had one season. We haven't seen that much, and he only had 4 touchdowns.
He had 1,000 yards with.
It was only 800 or something like that.
Okay, well, he didn't become the starter, and he was the rookie. He was a rookie, and
it was his second year.
To TBH, the league, it is way easier to get 1,000 yards in the league compared to 10 years ago.
Yeah, but he was like a no one. He came out of nowhere, played great, and
I'm not saying he's bad.
What's his name? What's his name?
Hoyer.
Not Hoyer. Oh, Hoyer for a bit, but then what was his name after that? Like the guy that was playing for the Eagles, Barkley.
Barkley.
he's terrible.
I'm not saying he's a bad guy.
Yeah, but
at
I'm
all.
saying Meredith then sign like a receiver in the offseason, like a number one, like what the Eagles did, like get a Jeffrey in there. This team could be good.
I'm still going with my defense. I'm still going with my prediction. The 49ers will make the playoffs before the Bears. I'm still going to keep that.
I would say the Bears until the Niners get a quarterback, because the Niners need a quarterback first.
They can go draft it this next year. They're 0-5. They can easily draft.
Yeah, but then that's another year.
I know. I didn't say it was the next season. I said the playoffs.
I'm going to say the Bears have a good chance of making the playoffs, not next year, but the year after.
That's what I also said about the 49ers.
I think they didn't lose. They only lost a third-round pick. The Bears only lost a third-round pick in the Trubiskys trade for next year. But I think what will be interesting, too, if you're the Bears, is you're going to have a high draft pick, and it's a quarterback draft. You have a quarterback. Do you trade back?
No, they'll probably get one of the best skill position players or defensive players on the board. They'll probably get a receiver.
Okay, so they're going to
which isn't strong this year as it was.
I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know if it will be receiver, but I'm just throwing it out there like receiver, maybe a corner. They'll get one of those type of players.
They need to get they do need receiver threats, but compared to what I've seen in the draft, they need a corner. That corner in drafts will always be healthy. Like they'll be a plenty.
Because looking at their defense, they have the pass rush. They have Leonard Floyd, who's young player, got 2 sacks in this game, looked really good. They have Akeem Hicks, who we said is one of the most underrated players.
And he's Canadian.
Yeah, he's good. Eddie Goldman inside to stop the run. He's pretty good. McPhee is a pretty good player. So they have some players in the front. I think Amos, the safety, who is pretty young as well, like 23, 24, is a good player. Their linebackers inside, they don't have Danny Trevathan, obviously, who's probably their best linebacker. And also Freeman is getting a little bit older, but he's hurt too, I think.
Yeah,
so
you're injured.
So their 2 best linebackers are injured inside. Their defense is a lot better when those 2 guys are playing. They have a decent pass rush already. So if they added upgrade over Amukamara and Fuller, I think this defense would be a lot better. Also, the strong safety position does need a little bit of work. But they are starting a rookie that's a 4th rounder that hasn't played too bad. So maybe they got something in him. But I think the future is bright for the Bears.
But do you truly think, like you tweeted out, that they should be 3-2? Do you really actually believe that? Where did they get those wins?
Okay, so they should have they beat the Steelers. I think they could have won tonight, given a couple of plays went their way in the first half. And if they had Cameron Meredith to actually get separation on a corner, they could have made a couple of other plays. And then against Atlanta, they should have beat Atlanta. If they had a receiver, they arguably could have beat them. I didn't say they should be 3-2. I said that they could be 3-2 if they had that guy that made those plays.
No, and they have one piece. I just think you need more than just a receiver to win 2 extra games, in my opinion.
It's one play away from winning those games, basically.
A lot changes though. I'm just saying, it's easy to say the Patriots could be 6-0 if they had Odell Beckham.
Yeah, they probably would be. But
yeah, exactly.
But a guy's already on their team. He just got hurt. And if they actually had a
Cam Meredith is a guy. I'm sorry, I haven't seen enough of Cam Meredith. Even
he's a good player. Just a player in general. That's how bad I think these receivers are. But they can't get any separation at all. I'm just saying one guy that can get open when they need him to get open. They should have beat Atlanta. If they didn't let that guy wide open in the middle of the field and they freaking scored, they still could have won if they freaking scored on the 1 yard line after four plays. They would have had a receiver. They might have scored there.
Yeah, I just don't like the woulda, shoulda, coulda.
I'm just saying it's possible. It's possible.
Anything's possible, man. Everyone knows that.
Mm-hmm. Do you not think that there would be a higher chance if they would have had Cam Meredith on their team or a competent receiver that they could have won those games?
To be honest, we're talking about Atlanta. We're talking about, regardless if it's just one play, we're still talking about great teams. And I believe,
but Atlanta could have. Atlanta could have lost 2 more games. They probably should have lost to the Lions.
I know, but it's like the butterfly effect. You change one thing, and something else would be different, bro. It doesn't. If you change one thing, It's not.
I just said it could have happened given that they had this player. I think that they're a team that's competitive. And by saying that they're competitive, that means that given a couple more pieces that they add to their team, they'll be a team that's going to be good.
No, I agree. But I've had this discussion with Kev. I just hate the word could or should, because it's or not should, more could, because it's easy just to say those things, because no one could say anything against that, because you don't really have anything to back it up, because it's like, oh, it could have happened. I'm not 100% sure, but it could. Anything could happen. I just stay away from coulds.
I'm more saying like it was a higher percentage of them doing that.
But not guaranteed.
Not guaranteed, but a higher percentage.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't think Atlanta's a great team.
What, Kev?
I don't think Atlanta's a great team.
That's fine. I didn't say that they're a great team. I just said that the Bears could have been too if they would have made those plays.
The NFL is shit this year. It's shit this year.
Well, I mean, by your same argument, though, I guess, Mitch. I mean, San Francisco lost 2 overtime games in a row. They could also be 3-2.
They could have been.
They could be 4-1, actually.
Let's go through every team, and I bet you could say every single record potentially they could have: 0-5, 1-4, 2-3, 3-2, 4-1, 5-0.
I'm just
every single
saying,
team.
Again, for
every
the third time. My point is that the Bears are a competitive team now. Give them a year or two to add upon their team and to develop this quarterback and get a new coach that will bring out the best in this quarterback, and they're going to be a good team. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and that's a lot of things that have to happen before that they even get that far.
I think they're too. I think, to me, in my opinion, what I'm seeing, I think the 49ers are closer right now. I think that they're 49ers.
I think they're about the same, but I would give the slight edge to the Bears because they have the quarterback already. Their defenses are about the same. Their running games are about the same. Their weapons are about the same.
Hold on. Mm-hmm. You said that the Bears defense is better than the Packers defense. So you're believing the 49ers defense is better than the Packers defense?
Their defensive line is better, yeah. But I think the Bears defense is slightly better than the 49ers. The Packers defense is shit.
And the Bears, well, they're only giving up 6 more yards than the Bears defense on average.
Yards.
Well, then if you want to go for points, they are. If you want to go for points,
well, probably the Packers because they've won more games, but I don't know. To be honest, I don't know.
Yeah, they won more games with the best quarterback in the league. So
the 49ers, to me, the reason I say that they're in better shape is they've already done the chop of their team. They've got their head coach.
I think the Bears have more pieces, though. What do you think? Yeah.
Wideouts are about the same. Running back, Howard Hyde. I like the 49ers line.
The only thing the 49ers have on the Bears is they have the new regime in with their coaches, but that's it.
What's that?
The only thing the 49ers, in my opinion, have on the Bears is that their coaching regime is now in. They have Lynch as their GM. They have Shanahan as their head coach.
Yeah, that's a huge advantage, I would say, though. And if you get Kirk Cousins, you're ahead of the game because you're targeting Yeah, that's why.
By the way, I'm just gonna call for the Bears. Chad Ochocinco and Terrell Owens are ready to play. So
true, they would be better. T.O. would create more separation than Marcus Wheat.
T.O. is getting 600 yards. I don't care. He's still in shape. And this man caught it.
Stiff arm a guy at the top of the route and get open.
He could be your field goal kicker because he kicked a 38-yard field goal last year on Monday Night Football in his boots. He caught a fish one-handed.
Moss?
Or that was Moss. Fuck. But still, Owens is lit. I don't care what you say. Yeah, I saw him play indoor football for the Allen Wranglers as he owned half the organization, and he was still lit. So he's great. Get Moss in there too. Shit.
Quickly, one thing about that Chicago's defense that needs to improve, like any team, is they give the third worst. They have the third worst third down conversion defensive rate in the league
because their secondary sucks.
Well, okay. Well, but so who's secondary we take? Green Bay's or Chicago's?
Green Bay's because of their safeties. But I think that the front seven is a lot better for the Bears.
I'm still not sold. I would say their D-line's better. I'm still not sold on their linebackers, though.
Yeah, I'm not either.
Yeah, like I'll still take Nick Perry and Matthews over whatever Freeman and whoever else they got, because I'm not sold on Chicago's linebackers. Their D-line, yes, very talented. I'm a big Hicks fan. He was a Regina Ram, played in CIS football, and then went to the NFL, which is huge. But I just don't think their linebackers and their safeties are not that great. But
okay, agree to disagree. All right, guys, thanks for joining us.
This was not as heated as I thought it was going to be.
Thanks for joining us for the Vikings and the Bears, Week 5 of 2017 Monday Night Football. It's been Mitch, Kev, Dilly Vanilli, and AC. Tomorrow we have a weekly recap. I believe Dylan will be on there with me. And is Kev going to be on there? I don't think so. AC's not going to be on there. So it's going to be me and Dylan tomorrow. Also, we're meeting with the great Fitty Trent tomorrow, at least I am, to talk about the future plans of the NHL content on this channel. So stay tuned for that. Peace.